Hello everyone, there was a time when I could not do even a single pull-up, and over the years I've got somewhat better at doing them. And in this video I want to create the simplest possible pull-up workout routine that I can think of for beginners, for people who are struggling to get their first pull-up or are stuck at only a few. This will use a very minimal amount of equipment, just one exercise and an easy to understand progression. The exercise in question is the assisted pull-up, a specific variation of the assisted pull-up because there are different ways of doing them, such as machine assisted pull-ups that you can find in gyms, band assisted pull-ups, etc. This one is the simplest of all, the feet assisted pull-up. First I'll show you how to do it, then I'll talk about how you can use this one variation to get to full bodyweight pull-ups. In order to perform this exercise, you'd need a pull-up bar or rings to do your pull-ups on, that's obvious. The second thing that you need is something to elevate your feet on. You can use a chair, a stool, a box, anything really, doesn't matter as long as it is stable. If you can't find any such object, you can either use a low bar or hang the rings low and you can put your feet on the ground. This will work, but elevating your feet is recommended. I'll say why in a minute. In any case, feel free to get creative and use whatever you have. I, for example, using this door to elevate my feet. There are a few things that you'll have to keep in mind about this movement. First of all, you'll have to make sure that your feet is in front of your body, not directly beneath you. Because if it is beneath you, what will happen is that you will eventually end up using your quads to help out with the movement. And it will become something more like an assisted squat variation than an assisted pull-up. When your feet are in front, some of your body weight will rest on your feet, but it doesn't actively help out with the movement. The second thing to know is that the higher you elevate your feet, especially in relation to your hips, the harder this movement is going to be. Which is why I recommended elevating your feet instead of having your feet on the ground earlier. Because when your feet is on the ground, it can never be at a higher level than your hips. On the other hand, if you are really weak, in that case, having your feet on the ground and at a much lower level than your hips could be the way to go to get more assistance from your feet. And lastly, make sure to have a good form. Try to replicate a real pull-up with your upper body. Make sure to go all the way up and down the way a normal pull-up should be done. Alright, now that we're clear with how to do the exercise, let's talk about how to progress, probably the most important thing. First, we'll start with rep ranges. I recommend starting with 5 to 8 or 6 to 10. However, the specific doesn't really matter. I would suggest you don't go below 4 or above 12 reps. As long as you're within that range, it's alright. Just make sure to be consistent in that range though, as it's quite important when it comes to applying progressive overload. Talking of which, the way I suggest you add progressive overload to this movement is not by changing your feet position or anything like that, but by adding external weights. The way you can add external weight is by simply wearing a backpack and putting some weight in it. Here's why this is simpler and better. When you add weight, you're in total control of the increase in intensity. It is easier to track your progress and making sure that you're getting incrementally stronger every week or session. Think about it, in all beginner free weight strength programs, you consistently add some small amount of weight at some interval, like adding 5 pounds to your bench press or 10 pounds to your squats every week. The movement itself does not change, that allows you to master the movement pattern. Unlike those free weight movements, however, you won't need a whole lot of weight. Since your body weight is still the primary source of intensity, even having something like 5 to 10 kg or 10 to 20 pounds should be enough. You can buy some cheap spare weights online, or you can use some household stuffs such as books, bricks, water bottles as weights. Finally, when you have added the most amount of weights you can and you are at the end of your rep range, you have two options. Either you can jump straight into doing regular bodyweight pull-ups, or if you started from a very easy progression where your feet was much lower than your hips, then you can take the weight off, elevate your feet and start this cycle all over again. Also, feel free to go above your normal rep range, like to 15 reps, in order to build more strength and endurance. Here's what an example progression might look like. You start training with your feet on the chair in the 5 to 8 rep range twice a week. When you hit 8 reps, you add a little bit of weight to go back to 5 reps and try to build it back up to 8 reps again. When you have gone through this cycle a bunch of times and have added the maximum amount of weight you can add in a backpack, let's say that's 10 kg, you can either try doing full pull-ups directly and see if you are able to do them, or you increase the reps you are doing with that weight, let's say to 12, or a mixture of two. Let's say you try 2 sets of regular bodyweight pull-ups, and when you're tired, then you try 2 sets of weighted assisted pull-ups. When you can do 10 reps of assisted pull-ups with 10 kg added and your feet being at the same level of your hips, you should be able to do full bodyweight pull-ups. There's even another benefit. Since by now you're already familiar with incrementally adding weight to apply progressive overload, you can simply repeat this process to get stronger at weighted pull-ups. The fundamental principles of progressive overload does not change whether you are doing assisted or unassisted pull-ups. That's it for the video. I hope this helps you out. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe if you want more similar videos. And I hope you have a great day ahead. Bye.